Hey everyone, if you're listening to this, chances are you might be going through a breakup. And let's be real, those can be rough.
Absolutely.
So we're going to dive into some advice on, well, not just surviving a breakup, but like actually thriving afterwards.
Yeah.
We're looking at this article from Femela.com. It's called Move On Tampa Drama.
I love that title.
You
Yeah.
too. And we're going to kind of sprinkle in some insights from the Evergirl as well.
Oh, okay.
So, when you're going through a breakup, like one of the first things that hits you is, well, all the feels, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The emotional roller coaster.
This article talks about how it's completely normal to feel sad or angry, confused even.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to have all those feelings.
It really is. It's part of the process, right?
Totally. They actually quote Headspace experts in here who say that accepting those feelings, like not resisting them, that's actually the key to moving on.
It makes sense when you think about it. Like if you have a physical wound, you don't just ignore it. You've got to clean it. You got to take care of it.
Right. You don't just pretend it's not there.
Exactly. And it's the same with emotional wounds. We need to acknowledge them, let ourselves feel them, process them so we can heal.
It's so true. And I think sometimes we try to bottle things up, pretend we're fine, but that just makes it, well, it makes it last longer.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about like wallowing in sadness forever, though.
Right.
It's more like giving yourself permission to feel those feelings, whether that's journaling, talking to a friend, or, even just having a good cry.
Whatever works for you. And it's interesting. There's actually research showing that people who process their emotions instead of suppressing them end up being better at regulating their emotions overall.
Wow, that's really cool.
Okay.
Okay, so while we're dealing with all of that, right, all those emotions,
Yeah.
this is also a great time to start shifting the focus onto, well, onto yourself. Self-care is a big theme in this article, but I think it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, I totally agree. It's not just about, face masks and bubble baths, although those are nice.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about using this time to rediscover who you are, outside of that relationship. What parts of you maybe got a little lost?
It's such a good point. Like maybe there was a hobby you loved but never had time for.
Or a trip you always wanted to take.
Or even just something simple like reading a book without being interrupted.
Exactly. This is your chance to reconnect with those things.
Yeah.
To reclaim those parts of yourself. It's a chance for growth, for self-discovery.
Oh, I love that. And you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, no, not at all. Actually, the article talks a lot about leaning on your support system during this time, which is so important.
Yeah, like having people who understand what you're going through, who will just listen. That can make a huge difference.
A huge difference for sure. And it's not just about listening. They can help you stay accountable to those self-care practices we were talking about, maybe even join you in rediscovering some of those passions.
Right, like they're your cheerleaders, your team.
Exactly. Surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, remind you of your strengths, and who can offer a little distraction when you need it.
I love that image. But, and this is important, it's not just about any support, right? The quality of that support matters a lot.
Oh, that's a great point. You want people who offer genuine encouragement, not those who might even unintentionally bring you down or add to the negativity.
Exactly. This is about surrounding yourself with positivity. Speaking of positivity, let's talk about shifting our mindset towards the future.
So, when we talk about moving on after a breakup, we're not talking about just like erasing the past. It's more about, well, how can you kind of integrate that experience into your story and use it to grow?
Oh, I love that. It's almost like, when you're reading a book and you finish a chapter, you don't just rip out the page, right?
Right.
You acknowledge it, you turn the page, you move on to the next chapter.
Exactly. And actually, there's some interesting research on resilience that shows that people who can find meaning in tough experiences, even breakups, they tend to be happier in the long run.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about finding the lesson, the takeaway, the silver lining, even if it's hard to see at first. One thing this article from Femela.com doesn't really talk about is, well, that whole staying friends thing.
Yeah. The age-old question, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, there's no easy answer. Sometimes, space and distance are what's best for both people to heal and move on. Other times it might work out differently. It really depends on the people involved and how the relationship was.
That's true. You really have to put your own well-being first. And even if you do end up becoming friends later on, giving yourselves that time and space initially is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Like, rushing back into any kind of label can just complicate things.
Totally. But getting back to the article, one thing that really stood out to me was how much they emphasize personal growth.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about moving on from the relationship, it's about moving forward in your own life.
Yeah.
So think about it. What are some things you've always wanted to do, skills you've wanted to learn, experiences you've been wanting to have?
It's almost like you have this blank canvas now, all these possibilities, and you get to paint whatever you want. The Every Girl article talks about this too. Reconnecting with those old passions or even discovering new ones.
That's it. It could be taking that art class you always dreamed of, or maybe learning a new language, or finally starting that business you've been thinking about. Whatever lights you up, those things that bring you joy and purpose.
I love that. And it kind of ties in with what we were saying earlier, about self-care. It's not just about pampering yourself. It's about investing in your own growth, your own development.
Exactly. And when you invest in yourself like that, it can do wonders for your self-esteem, which can really take a hit after a breakup. Like when you pursue things you're passionate about and you achieve things, well, it reminds you of your worth, your capabilities.
So important. And while we're talking about self-worth, I think it's important to talk about forgiveness too. Like forgiving yourself and maybe even forgiving the other person.
Yeah, forgiveness is so powerful. And I think it's often misunderstood. It doesn't mean saying what happened was okay. It's more about letting go of the anger, the resentment, the hurt that you're carrying.
It's like putting down this heavy weight you've been holding on to for so long.
Exactly. And holding on to those negative feelings just keeps you stuck in the past. It prevents you from moving forward.
So true. It's not always easy, though.
No, not always. And, forgiveness, it's a process, not a destination. It takes time. It can be messy. Just be patient with yourself. Work through it at your own pace.
That's a really good reminder. This whole journey of moving on, it's a process.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different for everyone. There will be ups and downs, good days and bad days.
What matters is that you're moving forward, even if it's just one tiny step at a time.
I like that.
You've already done so much, acknowledging your emotions, focusing on self-care, reaching out to your support system. So now it's about taking that momentum and using it to create a future that really excites you.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that brings us to the next phase of this deep dive, like getting practical about building that future. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground so far, right? We talked about those emotions after a breakup, remembering to take care of yourself, and having the right people around you.
Right, that support system.
But now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do we actually build that future? That future that feels exciting and fulfilling and, all those good things.
That's where I think intention setting comes in. It's about really choosing what you want to create, not just dreaming about it.
Oh, I like that. Taking ownership of the story.
Exactly. And there's something powerful about actually writing those intentions down, like you're making a commitment to yourself, a reminder of what you're working towards.
So like, what would that look like? Imagine you have a journal or a notepad or even just the sticky note. What are those things you want to bring into your life?
Yeah, I love that. It could be anything, really. Maybe you want to learn a new skill, finally take that trip you've always dreamed of, or start that side hustle you've been putting off.
Oh, those are good ones.
Yeah, just identifying those things that, that bring you joy. And don't be afraid to think big.
Yes. Think big, but then here's a tip. Break it down. Break those big dreams down into smaller steps.
Oh, that's so important. Makes it less overwhelming, right? And then those smaller steps, they feel much more achievable.
Totally. It's like you're creating this roadmap step by step towards the life you want to create.
And
And remember, there's no right or wrong way to do it, and no timeline either.
That's so true. And this is something I think we all struggle with, but comparing yourself to others, it's a recipe for feeling bad.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing, but everyone's journey is different, Celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it seems.
Focus on your own lane. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, I'm ready.
Given this newfound focus on you, what's one thing you've always wanted to try, but, for whatever reason, you felt held back? Maybe this breakup, as tough as it is, maybe it's that little push you needed to actually go for it.
I love that. What a great way to think about it. It could be anything, like taking up a new hobby, changing careers, or even just, expressing yourself more authentically.
This is your chance to rewrite your story, to be the best and most fulfilled version of yourself. And remember everything we talked about today. You've got the tools, Embrace those emotions, take care of yourself, lean on your people, and set those intentions. Now go out there and create a future that is, that's full of joy and purpose, and maybe even a little bit of adventure.
You got this.